Hello everyone and welcome to the Sleepless Podcast. My name is Jarryd Thomas and my job is to basically interview people that are much more qualified than me in just about every aspect of life. And what a first guest I have today to prove me exactly right on that. His resume is unbelievable. I'll just start reading it out now. So overall, 1 gold, 3 silver and 5 bronze medals, all major competitions. So that's just about all of them. Competed at the IPC World Championships in 94, 98, 2002, 2006. Just trying to make sure I get that right. Competed at the Paralympic Games in 1996, 2000 and 2004. Smashed it. And then the Commonwealth Games in 2014.
Yes.
Yeah. So you retired in 2008, made a return in 2014.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Specialising in the pentathlon, the relay, 4x400, discus, shot put, long jump, high jump. Sounding pretty good, yeah. So now, after that, obviously, a motivational speaker for schools and businesses, an award-winning author, not just an author, an award-winning author of 1 foot on the podium and 1 foot beyond the podium, and a podcast host yourself as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Elgin.
Oh, mate, what an intro. It is, how awesome is this to be here? And I like what you've done to the dungeon too.
Oh, absolutely.
The chains and stuff you got hang up here. And the way you threatened me when I first walked in that you weren't going to untie me if I didn't get this right in one go. So, mate, it's great to be here. And seriously, that intro, that just made me feel old. So you can get
Made you feel old?
Yeah, well, when you start, like all those things are cool. But when you say what years they were, and I start thinking back, geez, that was a bloody long time ago. I've eaten a lot of pies since then. So anyway, it's great to be here, mate.
Absolutely. So I first sort of knew you because you actually came to my school and did a speech. So Parkdale Secondary College, I know that.
Oh, yes.
You know, of course. You wouldn't remember the year that I was in it or whatever, but that was when I first saw you anyway.
Were you in year 8?
Oh, it'd be around that actually. You wouldn't be far off.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I still remember you were at the back picking your nose, and there was this girl beside you. No, you weren't picking your nose. No.
Of course. But you, well, funnily enough, I had a sort of connection with you earlier. You obviously know my mum.
I do. Your mum's a genius. She's played a big part in my life. She's educated my children as a kinder teacher. But of course, that aside, she's starred in our mixed netball team.
Oh,
that's why I have nothing but respect for
She'll
you.
absolutely love that you've said that too.
Oh, she was a star, mate.
No
mistakes about it, mate.
Anything. And so when I was making this podcast and having an idea for bringing on sort of sports people and people in Australian media that are inspirational and have all these inspirational stories, something flicked in my brain and I went, Mum knows a Paralympian. Like, why am I not going to this Paralympian? And so I tried to get you as soon as possible. Basically.
What a genius idea to start the bar really low and then build on your podcast from there. Good idea, mate.
But I don't think it's low to call a Paralympian the...
Oh, no, it wasn't about low. It was just about me. No, all good, mate.
Absolutely. So, obviously, your story is very inspirational. It's how you've built this massive just empire of you, and it's basically what I've brought you on is so the listeners can hear just everything that you have sort of come through and been through and now what you're doing with your life. So if you want to start basically like your early life and explain to the viewers sort of what it is that makes you so special.
Yeah, I think the win that I had was without doubt being born without the below half of my leg. I was born without my thumb on my left hand, my fingers on both of my hands were stuck together, and had open heart surgery when I was about 3.
Oh shit.
And then from there, the real win was Mum and Dad saying, mate, it doesn't matter if we find out why your leg's not there. The reality is it's not there, and all the research in the world's not going to grow it back. So just bloody get on and go with what you got. So that's been my approach. So my approach to life is just have a crack. Don't concern myself about things that I can't control. And with an older brother, older sister and 2 younger sisters, I got to grow up and literally live. You know, they had 2 arms, 2 legs, and that was our life, is just doing what everyone else did. So disability, handicap, special, those type of words weren't words that were used in our family. It was just like, stiff shit, just go. So, and it's interesting because I always considered myself when I started competing around Paralympic level that when I could beat my brother, in a running race or do something else, then I was going, okay, I really didn't give a shit about the rest of the world. I just wanted to beat him. So
that's more than fair.
Yeah, so that was my childhood.
Yeah, so you were raised in Tokemwall, was it?
That's it. Yeah.
So do you want to explain to the listeners where that was? Because before I found out, I had absolutely no idea where it was.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I like to consider that I've been doing my best to put Tokemwall on the map. Clearly, I've done a shit job at it.
Well, when I was researching you, I found out. So
yeah, so, this is what I love about Toke, is I was actually born in Donald, a little country town in country Victoria.
Yep.
But I don't talk about that because that shit's weird, because my dad's name's Donald. I was named after my dad. My name is Donald and I was bloody born in Donald. That shit's weird. And I got a sister called Donna. So get your head around that. Yeah, that's real. My parents got issues, but no, they're good. They're good. So we moved to Tokemwall when I was pretty young, and grew up in Tokemwall. My parents ran a caravan park. So Tokemwall, the easiest way to describe Tokemwall is if you think about Melbourne and in Brisbane and draw a line the way the crow flies.
Of course.
As you go over the New South Wales-Victoria border, you cross Tokemwall.
Okay.
And so it's right there. It's 279 k's north of Melbourne.
Yep.
And it is dead set God's country, mate. It's a great
Absolutely.
part of the world, and I love it. And probably one of my favourite things, apart from, my mates growing up and all that type of stuff, and the jobs I had in Toke, was after the 96 Paralympic Games, when they named Tokemwall the home of a Paralympian after me. It's like, how bloody good is this, mate? So my brother thought it was awesome too, because he stole all the signs around the town and gave them to me. I go, bruv, you're sort of not getting it, mate. The signs need to be up.
Something to be there so that people know that you are basically the Pope of Tokemwall.
Well, that's right. So we put those signs back so we could remind people, and we may have kept one for my shed. So anyway, they're up there, and Toke's a bloody good part of the world.
Of course, yeah. So growing up, obviously, you played footy as well. Growing up,
yeah, played footy,
swimming, and track and field, and that.
Yeah, track and field wasn't a big one for me as a kid. I grew up with a public swimming pool in my front yard. So literally every day, my brother and I would kick the footy in the front yard, which is the pool yard.
Yep.
And then in the summer, we'd swim in the pool. We'd get up, play cricket, wrap the tennis ball with insulation tape. And then
I've got one out the back. Right.
Yeah, and then I'll just stand there, my knees were shaking, I was shitting myself. My brother's coming in doing body line on me, mate, and I just swing wildly. And the only thing I was hoping for is that I didn't give a shit if I hit a 4 or 6. I just didn't want the ball to hit me, because that's what hurt.
Of course.
So that was seriously, I think about growing up, and that was a cracking place to grow up. It was just a really good time in life.
God's country.
And yeah, absolutely. And then you get to a point, you go, righto, there's something else out there. I want to do something else. So I'd always been coming to Melbourne to get my legs made, and
of course.
And so I knew that Melbourne was a draw card. Like, there was lots of lights, there was lots of things going on there, and I thought, I'm going to have a piece of that.
Good, yeah, of course.
Here I am.
Yeah. So in Tokemwall, so what are the kids around, and your schools and stuff like that, where their reactions to sort of your amputee, and what did they sort of think as well at the same time? Was there any sort of, not discrimination, but was there any sort of just different feelings amongst them? Or?
Oh yeah, they were arseholes. They bloody teased the crap out of them. No, actually, the funny thing is, my very first day, this is a true story.
Yeah.
My brother said, mate, you're going to love school. School is awesome. You get to play sport, you get to eat lunch, you get to chase girls, and I'm in kinder. I go, what do I want to chase girls for? But anyway, I learnt, and I got to school my very first day. And by lunchtime, I was sitting down the playground. I was crying, bawling my eyes out. Hated school. And my brother come up, put his arm around me and goes, Donnie, what's wrong, mate? Why are you sooking? I said, it's not fair. I said, they're all teasing me. They call me names like Jake and Eileen and Skippy. And I didn't realise at the time, but Eileen's a very funny name for a leg amputee, because I did. Anyway, I said to my brother, I said, let's bash them up. And he goes, mate, we can't do that. I said, why not? He goes, because you're in prep. He goes, how about we just show them that you can do what they can do? And soon, those guys, they could see that I could do what they could do.
Of course.
Yes, I had to wear an artificial leg, but it wasn't the end of the world. And so I coped really early at school. And then there was one day, I remember I finally got to represent Toke Public School. We played the Catholic school.
Yep.
And then we were playing footy, and it was felt like the whole school was just bloody into me. I was the freak show and they gave it to me. And I struggled. I really struggled with that. I went home and I was feeling sorry for myself and I was hating my life. I was weighing up which way I was going to top myself. So this is how much I was like, it was really, really low moment because the impact of what they were saying, as I said, I didn't have the coping skills to know how to deal with this. And I'm sitting there crying in their little cafe at the kiosk at the caravan park. And Dad said, mate, what up? Why are you looking? I said, Dad, why me? Why not my brother or one of my sisters? Why couldn't they have one leg and, I have two legs and be good? And what he said was a game changer. He said, mate, why not you? It's only a bit of your leg. You've got a good attitude. You can deal with it. And that really was the game changer. It changed my thinking of, instead of feeling sorry for myself, I could actually look at this and go, shit, this is actually okay. Yeah. If I go through life and the worst thing that happens to me is I'm missing half my leg, I'll get out of this pretty well, mate, because, there's a lot of mixed up units in our world and some of it through no fault of their own. And so I appreciate the fact that my card means that I go through life, I have to put a leg on every day. Well, shit, if I play sport, I can go to the Paralympics. If I put my leg on, I can ride a motorbike. So, we live in a great country. So, seriously, what have I got to whinge about? So, when I got my head around that, I changed the way I looked at life. And I'm really glad that, looking back, I'm glad that I had those people around to really bloody work with me through that, because it's a tough time. And as you know, mate, if you haven't got a good support network, sometimes when you get stuck and you've got something that you're not sure how to deal with, then honestly, you come unstuck. And so learning to ask for help and to reach out and say, I'm not well, I don't know how to do this at the moment, and have people come to your aid. And sometimes when they come to your aid, they don't wrap you up in cotton wool. My old man saying, why not you? Like, shit, I wasn't expecting that. I thought, what about a cuddle? But the difference was, the outcome was that we're able to move through that. And that's why I spend my life now making sure that I do what I can to help other people in their life.
Yeah. So obviously you turned that, you being an amputee into this absolutely amazing thing. Like, you've just gone from not knowing what to do with yourself, and now you're a medalist at all these games.
Well, it didn't quite just wake up. You say that like I just go, oh, that's what I want. Here it is. No, mate, I had to do a shitload of work. But the thing that got me, I'll tell you how it started. Right? Yeah. I go to the Finley High School. That's where I was going to high school. And a couple of my mates come up to me and said, Donnie, why don't you go to the Paralympics? I've never bloody heard of Paralympics, right? I said, to what? And they said, to the Paralympics. I said, what are you talking about? And they said, they're games for disabled people. I said, I can't go to those. They said, why not? I said, I'm not disabled. I said, Donnie, you got one leg, mate. You're disabled. I said, righto, tell me about them. So when they started to talk, and they told me that Paralympics are parallel to the Olympics. Every 4 years there's an Olympics. Every 2 weeks later there's a Paralympics, or 3 weeks. Use the same swimming pool, track and field, accommodation. Everything's the same. I just thought, I'd heard stories about the village, and I thought, hello, wouldn't want to bloody go there, would we? Yes, we would. So I just got stupidly excited about the thought of playing sport and representing my country. I thought, how good would this be? And that was really where the seed was planted. And then a big shift, or a bit of actually fertilizer for that seed, was when I went to my first ever amputee championships. Yep. And I looked around, and here was all these people missing arms and missing legs. And my first thought was, bloody bunch of freaks, look at you. And then it sort of dawned on me, I go, shit, I'm just like them. Down. And so, that was like, duh. But then I thought, because our mind, the way we think, is such a powerful tool. I kept thinking, but I'm not really disabled. Like, they all are, but I'm not. I'm bloody going to win everything. Turns out I got my ass kicked in just about everything. And that's when I really thought, you know what, this is the real deal. I want to do well at this. And so I come home and I really started working hard at my swimming, because, as I said, a public swimming pool in the front yard, like, it's a bit of a freak kick that I'm going to be able to swim. And I was a reasonably good swimmer. And in 1992, I attempted to qualify for the Barcelona Paralympic Games.
Yep.
And they took 12 amputee swimmers to represent Australia, and I was ranked number 13. So it cut me up pretty deep. I just thought, you can get stuffed, I've retired. And my dad gave me a little clip around here. He goes, what do you bloody mean you retired, mate? You can't retire. You're 16, you can't bloody retire. And I was just, again, feeling sorry for myself. And the difference was that when I then reset, what I did is I looked at who was doing the stuff that was fun. Yep. And because that's what I wanted. I just figured life's short. Let's have as much fun as we possibly can while we've got a chance. Yep. And so the guys doing athletics looked like they were having a shitload of fun. I thought, mate, that's where I want to be. Like, they're laughing and carrying on. I thought, yeah, that's got my name on it. So because I love sport, I had a crack at both swimming and athletics, and then I consciously spent more and more time training for athletics and gave swimming the flick, which was a bloody good decision because swimmers are all nuts, mate. They look at a black line up and down. Anyway, so I got and fortunately for me, a couple of years later, 1994, I'd made it to my first world champs, and I come back from there with a gold and a bronze medal, and I just thought, mate, this is it. This is what I want to do. And it was bloody addictive, that feeling of being number one in the world and having that feeling that you've achieved something that you set your sights on. That's the bit that I suppose it's universal. It doesn't matter. I mean, you're studying in the media and going to Deakin and doing really cool stuff, right? It is Deakin, isn't it? I don't want to bloody give a big rap for Mono. Shit, they didn't have you. Deakin's got it. But what I'm saying is, when you start, you set yourself a goal.
Yep.
That feeling of achieving that goal is absolutely universal. So whether it's finishing and your schooling, your uni, whether it's achieving something in sport, and even for kids, when you finally learn how to do double bloody bows and tie up your shoes, like that feeling is like, yes, I got it. Yep. Well, it's just amplified. It's the same feeling. It's just amplified when you're doing it on a world stage.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously growing up, not really knowing earlier on what to do with your leg and you're feeling sorry for yourself, obviously, and then that feeling of winning a gold medal, that comparison is just unbelievable. That would completely just
polar opposite, mates, and it was really good. And it's a great pickup that you just said then, because it was my dad who made me realise that. He said to me, mate, remember a couple of years ago when you were going to give it in and quit, and now look at. And it's those reminders, and the fact that such a young bloke, you can see the importance of the difference of wanting to quit and give up versus what's possible if you don't is something that it's a credit to you, and it's why you're going to be a success in life, mate. So good on you.
Thank you, mate. That's not too bad. So the Paralympic Games, obviously the big sort of.
That's the big daddy. Mate.
What are the Paralympic Games like? How do they differ to the Olympics in terms of the Olympic Village, like you said, and sort of how different is it just overall compared to?
Yeah, well, there's a few major differences. You hear about a lot of condoms get used in the Olympic Village. Well, a lot more condoms get used at the Paralympic Village because they don't want people to breed, right? They say, geez, if that lot starts breeding, we're all screwed. So, no, I think the thing I love about it the most is that the Paralympic Games, everyone has already overcome something. So at the Olympic Games, there's a lot of people walking around there with a carrot stuck up their butt thinking their shit don't stink. Some of them, need a reminder that the shit actually does stink. But the Paralympic Games, what you notice mostly is that everybody's got there has dealt with some shit time in their life prior. So whether it's because they've acquired their disability, whether they've been born with it, whether they've just been bullied, overcome things, but they've all dealt with it because... And we live in a society that is made for an able-bodied person to go flat out through life. So having a disability means there's already a setback. How you deal with that, what I've found is that if you haven't dealt with it, it's highly likely you won't be at Paralympics, because it's just one of those things that to be at that level of sporting, that level of competition, it takes so much. You just can't afford to have extra baggage about dealing with the card that's been dealt to you. So
you kind of just got a fucking attitude, I've just fuck whatever those other people say. Like, I'm gonna be a Paralympian sort of thing. Like,
yeah, well, there's a huge feeling of game on too, you know, and some weird shit happens at Paralympics. So I remember at the village, I'll tell you a little story.
Oh, here we go.
Little stories about the Athens Paralympic Games, right? So when you go to a games, the first thing you get is your accreditation. That thing is, mate, that's worth more than your gold medal, right? Because if you lose it, you're in the shit a lot. Yep. You won't get in the village. There's guys with machine guns standing at the gate. Like, this thing is Fort Knox. So, yeah, you want to make sure your accreditation, you don't do anything without it. Anyway, at the Sydney Games, we were sponsored by Coca-Cola and there was Powerade, so there's free drinks and all that sort of stuff. You have a little card and you swipe it on the vending machine, you get free drinks. So straight away I go, how good is this, right? Yeah. And there's, by the way, everything in the village is free. So there's things you can buy, but you can go to a games arcade and there's all these pinballs and shit all day, every day, free. Sure. You can go to, there's a cinema, you can get your hair cut. Like, there's a lot of massage, the lot. There's also a dining hall that's as big as the MCG. Food from everywhere around the world, and it's free. So, like, straight away, that's cool. Yeah. And you see countries, right, that aren't used to having much free shit, because they'll go to the Macca's line and they'll just stack their tray full of burgers and shit and go, boys, you know you can go back. It's okay. So, but that's one thing. And so, because in Sydney, I knew a lot of the people because of home games, right?
Yeah,
so
of course.
The guys that work for Coke, they saw me and we just happened to acquire a little fridge and put it in our room. The boys would go around to filling up the vending machines and then stop at our house and fill up our fridge for me. So we were very fortunate. The thing about Athens, right, is so every host country provides a gift. And so when you rock up to your room, there's usually a unique doona on there. So it's in a Sydney Olympics or Paralympics doona. And actually my Commonwealth Games doona is on my son's bed at the moment. And so it's not surprising his bloody dreams about sport, mate. He's sleeping underneath the Commonwealth Games doona every night. But anyway, they give you a little gift pack, and it's usually little toiletries and a shower bag, washing bag, that sort of stuff. In Athens, because the Greeks, they're big on the ouzo. They gave everyone a little bottle, a little 60ml bottle of ouzo. Our team managers get there before and said, well, shit, we've got young kids. We don't want all our athletes drinking during the games. Yeah. So they confiscated them all. Like, filled all the shower bags, like the washing bags, up with these bottles of ouzo. And they were put in a back room. Yeah. At the end of the games, the closing ceremony, one of the assistant team managers of another team said to me, goes, oh, buddy, I know where all that ouzo is. And I said, well, let's get it. So I shit you not, I was DMA on the last night in Athens. That's drunkest man in Athens. Because I had two washing bags filled with little bottles of ouzo. And because I've been around the sport for a while, I knew a lot of people. So I was invited to a lot of different parties within the village, because that's what happens. You've got the big closing ceremony. Then you go back and everyone has their own parties, right? And Aussies are usually pretty good at hosting parties. But I had the world record holder of the shot put say to me, he was Danish, and he said, mate, come to our party. Well, I rocked up with 2 bags of ouzo over my shoulder.
You would have been the most popular man there. Easy.
I was. And everyone wanted to have a shot with me. And I said, well, righto, game on. So we were, you know those big skips, those bloody big 2 by 3 metre skips? We were racing those through the village. Like, I had the world shot put champion, buddy, pushing me. I'm in one, cheering like I was a bloody racehorse driver. Anyway, it was, it's a lot of fun to be had, and a lot of things happen, and fortunately not everything makes it into social media, because some shit's just dumb. Yeah. But most of it is lighthearted fun, and it's the sort of stuff that makes you want to work harder to get to the next games. Yeah. And because those things are, the stories, a lot of the stories about the village and the camaraderie and, you know, those sort of things, like, they're true. Yeah. Like, people do have a great time. Yeah, they get embellished, but the fact is that you're in such a protected space, and that's the good thing about inside the village, is it's really clear that everybody's there and we're all on a level playing field. So whereas you go out into the public and you go and, get shit-faced, there's some dickhead with a camera who's trying to make a name for themselves, and we'll put that up. And so reputations get, damaged, sometimes rightfully, but sometimes bloody unfairly, to be honest. Whereas in the village, you're a whole lot safer to have a good time.
And like obviously with athletes, like they're just like normal people. Like you can just like they can go out for a drink at the pub, whatever. Like if there's a normal person that gets filmed doing something, a lot of times it's just like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But if an athlete gets filmed doing the exact same thing while they're drunk, it's, oh, what are they doing? What example are they setting?
Correct.
Blah, 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 stuff like that.
And there's always, that's the reality. I mean, if you take money from the public purse, whether it's sponsorship or whatever, at some point you're accountable for that.
Of course.
And so people want to check in. But I also think that we've got to call bullshit on sometimes what's portrayed in the media, because people say to me, oh, that's a bad role model for your kids, to that what that person's done. I'm going, well, actually, as the parent, I'm helping my kids create the difference between right and wrong. Yeah. So it's not the media's job to tell me somebody's a bad role model. I'll decide that and then help my kids work that out. So, yeah, but if we never call bullshit on it, if we never question things, then we're suckers. We just consume whatever's put in front of us, and that's a big mistake.
Exactly. So obviously the Olympic Village is the fun part of the Olympics, but obviously there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. Do you have any stories of like actual events where like, because obviously Paralympic Games will be like different, where if something goes wrong, say like this is an example and I'm sure it doesn't happen, but say like something goes wrong with your artificial leg, was there any things that happened like that to you or to someone that like happened during an event that kind of put a little bit of a...
Oh yeah, there's shit happens all the time. I mean, you're dealing with people that are at speed with artificial limbs or wheelchair. When a wheelchair's stacked, mate, that is the best mash-up derby you can see. Like half of them are fucked anyway, so like the damage is probably going to be minimal. But the best one's murder ball. Like it's rugby, wheelchair rugby.
That is ridiculous.
They are nuts, aren't they?
That is unbelievable.
Like, when I say they're messed up mentally, those blokes. They just do not care. They love it. Like, it's an awesome spectacle. I think the best ones for me was I watched one of my competitors do long jump, and his strap on his artificial leg broke right as he took off. And his leg went behind him, come up and whacked him in the back of the head.
My God.
Like, that was good, like, because I didn't really like him. So it was better. It kicked himself on the head. But, like, that sort of shit does happen from time to time. I mean, it's not the sort of thing you want to happen, but it's, you can't. And the other thing, too, is the blind guys. Like, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Watch the Paralympics this year. There'll be these sort of spectacles. The blind guys, like, doing long jump. So totally no vision.
Yeah.
Running down a long jump run up, taking off into the sand. Well, I've seen guys take off and fucking land like they're not on track to land in the sand. Jesus. And their caller hasn't brought them back in.
Oh my God.
They've taken off and landed bloody on the track. It's like, holy shit, I'd be firing the guy who's supposed to be keeping me on track.
That'd be the first person that'd go after that. The person that's meant to be
keeping he'd be next Paralympics, he'd be competing because he'd be fucking leg amputee or something. So, but anyway, yeah. So there's always things that happen, and that's the beauty. That's why it's so worth watching the Paralympics.
Yeah, no, it's just so insane. Like that, and back to that murder ball as well. That is probably the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like rugby itself is terrifying. Murder ball is.
Well, it's another level.
Terrifying.
That's right. I mean, why it's so good is because they get, like I was saying before, about they've overcome the fact that a chair's part of their life now.
Of course. And
they just want to be the best bloody athletes. And if they have to take somebody out to prove it, they're willing to do that. And what I like about it is when you see somebody who does something every single day of their life, they get bloody good at it.
Yeah.
And so when you watch these guys and they look like they're about to go arse over tit and they're on like literally one wheel going down there and they control that. Like the good guys are bloody amazing. They'll just find spots, find the spaces and get through and score. Like it is pretty cool. Yeah. Another one that's a interesting game to watch is goalball. So you've got 3 vision impaired people. They're on a team. And they've got a ball, and the ball's got a bell in it. And they've got to stop the other team from scoring and then try and score themselves. So they score into like a soccer net. Yeah. And they're there and they'll
It's kind of like handball, like kind of like European handball.
Yes, it is a bit like handball, but no side, and the ball's bigger with a bell in it. So, and you've got to be a little bit deranged in the head to do that as well, I'd reckon. I mean, they throw themselves out because they hear the sound of the ball. Like, as I said, you try doing that shit no side, mate. It plays with your emotions. So these guys, when I say someone's mad or they're nuts, I say it in jest and I say it with respect because me, I'd want to do that shit. So, I fully respect somebody else that does.
No, of course. So you retired. You retired in 2008 from sort of competitions, and then in 2014, what was the decision? Because you came back for the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. What was sort of your decision behind that?
Well, I'll tell you how this worked, right? I went to the World Champs in 2006. I was the captain. I led the flag bearer. It was bloody awesome time.
Yeah.
I come back from that meet. I was rooted. My knee was damaged on my artificial leg side. I had an ultrasound not long after. I had it a couple of months after I got home, and they said that is the worst damage that they'd seen.
Shit.
So, and the reason for it is because as I was running, my knee was coming down, and we'd modified my running leg, and we tried to make it lighter, but in doing so, we made it weaker. And so when I'd crouch down in the blocks to do the starts, it actually ended up cracking the front of the socket. So the socket leaned in. So every time I ran, my knee come down and sort of smacked on that socket, and it effectively trashed my knee. Yeah. And I thought after, that happens in the lead up to Athens, and I thought if it just have a big break after Athens, it'll settle down, be fine. But then when I come, and it flared up in the lead up to the World Champs, and I broke down over there and it was no good, and I come back and it's like, righto. So I had the surgery and I just couldn't get good enough after that. And of course the standard keeps going up and up each year. And I thought, oh no, stuff it, I'm done. And I thought I was done because I made that decision because I was injured, not because that flame that burns inside had gone out. That was still burning, and I thought, oh, I'm young, I'm strong, I'm not done yet. So I took up another sport, took up paddling. I went to the state champs and nationals. I won a couple of medals. I thought, fucking, this is it, mate. This is my new sport. Game on. And then I had a phone call in 2010 to see if I wanted to meet with Athletics Australia and have some sort of involvement with the Paralympic Games athletics team, or with the World Champs athletics team. Turns out I came away from that meeting as the team manager, and then went over to the World Champs in 2011 as the team manager. It was literally 2 weeks we got home, and then the big earthquake hit New Zealand, so we were there. Christchurch the big church was levelled. It was bloody terrible, but we had a couple of earthquakes and tremors when we were over there. And I come home from that, and then I got a phone call that said, would you like to also be team manager at the Paralympic Games and in London? I said, bloody oath I would. That'd be great. Absolutely. Went over there. It was good to go over there. I caught up with an old mate of mine, Oscar Pistorius. I'd known him for years, so it was really good just being back in that space, because having missed 2008, there's a fair bit changes, but then there's things that don't change, like your friendships and stuff. Yeah. And then when I got back from that, I'd literally only been home probably about 3 weeks, and I was down helping one of my old coaches. He had an athlete there that he was coaching to do discus, a leg amputee, and I was giving him a few pointers. And my head coach from the athletics team rang me up and said, hey Don, one of your events, the discus, is on at Glasgow next in 2014. And I said, I don't give a shit, mate, I've retired. Look how many pies I've been eating. And anyway, he goes, I just sort of let you know. We kept having our conversation. Just before I hung up, I said, hey, what's the qualifying standard? And when he told me what it was, I thought, fucking, I can do that. You can do that, absolutely. Because I'd done it in the past. I'd done better than that. Mm-hmm. But I also hadn't thrown a discus for 6 years either. I thought, well, I'll see what happens. So I hung up that phone, and then I picked up my phone and rang my wife. Yep. I said, hey, Boof, the Commonwealth Games have got discus for leg amputees in Glasgow. What do you reckon? And I half expected her to say, oh, no, don't worry about it, mate. You've retired, you had a good run. And she said, yeah, why not? I thought, fuck it, game on. Yep. So, I literally, within the space of 2 minutes, 2 phone calls, had made a comeback. Shit. I went and spoke to a PT, and I said, mate, you want to coach Commonwealth Games athlete? And he said, who? I said, me. He said, "You're not." I said, "Not yet." And I said the same thing to a prosthetist who used to be a discus coach.
Yeah.
And I asked him if he wanted to coach a Commonwealth Games athlete. I was fucking just so sure I was going to do this. And if I couldn't do it, I wasn't going to die wondering.
Of course.
I was going to have a crack.
Yeah.
And I got to the Nationals where they announced the first team. After the season, I travelled around the country trying to get qualified.
Yep.
Missed them by bees' dicks, right? So it's like I can spend all my own cash trying to do this. And it's like, fuck it, there's one more weekend. There was a competition in Queensland and one in Tassie. And I thought, I'm going to go up there one way, then down to Tassie on the Sunday. If I don't get it, I'll come home. I'll tell my kids, say, guys, I had a crack. Didn't make it. But you know what? That's what life's about, is having a go. I got up to Queensland and I qualified by dead set 4 centimetres. And it was just like, you fucking ripper. And I didn't even bother going to Tassie. I came straight home and we celebrated. And that was why I made my comeback, is because the opportunity was there. And I figured you're a bloody long time retired. And the chance to compete again for your country, like I told you, it's bloody addictive, mate.
Absolutely.
The feeling is amazing. Of course, to walk out in Glasgow with an Australian Commonwealth Games team uniform on, and to have 50,000 people in that stadium just making noise, it's awesome. It's such an awesome thing, and that's why I love it when young people say, "I'm going to do this." You know, I'm the first person to go, you good thing. You've got it. You know. It's going to be hard. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. And same with you, mate. When you said, I'm going to do podcasts, I'm going to bloody talk to athletes and different people from all around the world, go, good on you. I'm in. Like, what can I do? You know, because that's my approach, because I believe that there's too many pricks in the world that will tell you what you can't do. And there's not enough of us saying what you can do, and not enough of people whacking their arm around people and saying, let's go. Let's bloody get this on and make it happen. And the more people that do it, the better life is. And I just want to be in that camp. So, Absolutely. Yeah, the Commonwealth Games experience was bloody amazing, mate. So, loved it.
Yeah, that's very inspirational as well. I've got, I feel like I'm going to run through a bloody brick wall at this point.
Well, don't, because we'll have to patch the fucker up. So.
I do want to go back, though, because you said a name that threw me off entirely. So, Oscar Pistorius.
Yeah.
So you were mates with Oscar Pistorius?
I met Oscar when, I said before that athletes get around with the carrot up their arse singing their shit don't sting. Well, the same, it's not just reserved for Olympians and a few footballers. Like, it happens at the Paralympics as well. And typically it's the sprinters. They think that they're in the big...
Because that's sort of like the marquee.
They think it is. That's right. The pentathlon's the bloody marquee event. I keep telling them that. But what would happen is when I met Oscar, I think he was about 15, and he come on the scenes at a World Champs, and a few of the sprinters all just sort of turn their nose up. Who's this bloody little South African, no legs? Think his shit don't stink. And he didn't. He was a cool guy, but they did. And anyway, I just hung out with Oscar. He was just another athlete. Yeah. And honestly, he's a good bloke. And I really enjoyed our time, and over the time of, and that's the beauty about Paralympics and World Champs, is often you would catch up with people every couple of years, because it's a World Champs, 2 years later it's a Paralympics, and then World Champs and so on. And so I caught up with Oscar, and we'd just hang out just like another, teammate, but I'd only see this guy every couple of years. And at the end of what we're at the Visa World Cup, and which is a competition put on just for, it's invite only for the top 8 athletes in the world of a particular event. Visas were the sponsors, they paid for everything, and it was done for the BBC. There was only 4 sports, wheelchair basketball, cycling, athletics and swimming. Yep. And it's one weekend and it's full on. And bloody everyone gets around and watches it, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so Oscar and I, we did our events. I was in discus and he was doing the 200, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, at the end of the event, he was going to do a sponsor thing, and he said to me, he goes, come with me. It was in bloody Iceland or somewhere. Shit. And he goes, come with me. I said, no, I've got shit to do, mate. He goes, no, I'll pay for your trip, come on, we'll go. And so I thought, fuck it, this could be awesome. But I'd already made plans to go to Amsterdam, and because I was already, had some shit lined up with some other teammates. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't end up going with him. But over and a couple of years later, he was getting reasonably good fast athlete.
Yeah.
And second fastest South African over 400 metres, right? So the fact that he's got no legs just bloody cranks that up
Ridiculous,
a little bit.
Yeah.
And
wait, so second fastest South African, including...
Full stop.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like can go...
Quick.
Yeah. So he got to the point that he could qualify. His times were good enough to qualify for the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
And I wrote a piece where the age come to me and said, do you think that he should be allowed to compete at the Olympics? And I said, no, he shouldn't. I said, the rules are clear. You're not allowed to wear artificial aids to run. And the fact that he has to change out of his walking legs into his running legs to be able to run that time says to me that
other people can't do that.
There's some sort of bloody advantage over those running legs versus walking legs. And I know because I wear one of them. And whether it gives you more advantage than somebody with two legs. And so I did a thing with Catalyst on the ABC. They put bloody bits all over me and did all this testing to find out. But my view didn't change, and that article sort of got replicated around the world a bit. That I said that Oscar shouldn't be allowed to go to the Olympics. He should only be at the Paralympics, and I didn't say that he shouldn't be allowed to go to the Olympics. As a matter of fact, I said that he should be able to go to the Olympics, but he shouldn't be able to compete for a medal event.
Right.
He should be at the Olympics because the whole world's watching the Olympics, and about 10% watch the Paralympics, right? So I figured what a great showcase to have him run at an exhibition event at the Olympics, but then compete at the Paralympics. And anyway, I know he saw my article and that sort of thing, and I thought, oh, fuck, I hadn't seen him for a few years since then. And I said, if anyone's going to be able to do it, I'd rather one of my mates be able to do it. So good luck to him, but I don't believe he should be able to. Then I get to London as the team manager, so not competing, and I get to the warm-up track, and Oscar's over. He's only bloody 15, 20 metres away, and he's talking to somebody else, and he looks over their shoulders and he sees me. I thought, fuck, I haven't seen him since this article. I thought, wonder what he's going to say here. He come running over and he gave me the biggest fucking bear hug you've ever seen, just like two old mates catching up, and it was a really awesome thing. And of course, by that time, his profile, like he was an international superstar. So, but that friendship that started long before all that still existed, and it was great. So we spent a fair bit of time. He was going through some issues with a girlfriend at the time, and that was, we were talking about some different things that you could do to potentially, make it survive the relationship or not. Like and I, as I'm a few years older than Oscar, and so sort of that bit more, mate, here's some advice, is what I do. And we sort of just spent time together through the London Village. And then, of course, on Valentine's Day, February 2013, he's all over the news again. I was doing a speaking engagement for Coca-Cola. It was at Etihad Stadium. I remember I come out and my phone just fucking went off its tree because I had it on, turned it on, and all of a sudden it's lit up, Oscar this, Oscar that. What the fuck's that? And so I read all the messages. Shit, Oscar shot his girlfriend. I said, holy fuck, So I texted him, I said, mate, whatever the situation, it can't be good, but I'll be here for you. And then, of course, he gets bail, and I listen to every minute, and of course I'm up late because South Africa, time difference, so every minute on the radio when that was broadcast and the bail hearing. And he got bail. He texted me when he came out and said, mate, I really appreciate your support. And it was just it was one of those things that doesn't matter what happens, there's no winners out of this. And when he told me, his version of the story, which is exactly what he said in court, all that type of stuff, everyone has a different opinion, and it's weird. He's been convicted and he's gone to jail. But in my opinion, I actually still believe him. And regardless of that and the situation, I'm not the type of person that says, well, let's throw the baby out with the bathwater. Whether it was a mistake, an accident, deliberate, whatever the situation, I don't believe for not one grain of being in me believes that it was deliberate. And the movies I've watched, the shit that they've come up with to make it out, and I've watched the way the media watched the exact same courtroom hearings as I did, and then I saw what they put in the news break, and it's like, fuck, Were you actually watching, or did you just wait for something you can manipulate to tell the story you wanted? So the media are in a ridiculously powerful position to be able to influence.
Of course.
And of course, that's what they did. But it is what it is, mate. And there'll be people listening to this today that will say, "Nah, bullshit, Don, you're biased because he's your mate." It's like, well, fuck, maybe. But I reckon I've got a pretty fair look on it. And there's only 2 people who ever know, and unfortunately, one of them, Reva, isn't with us anymore. And Oscar is, and whatever way you look at it, he has to live with that for the rest of his life. So, but do I think that something can come from that? Yeah, I do. I still think that deep down, he's the type of person that he won't ever rest comfortably knowing that he can do something else about that, and he'll definitely attempt to do that. So, yeah, interesting time. But
yeah, shit. He's probably, in terms of like a global scale, he's probably one of the most popular or one of the most famous Paralympic athletes. Like,
without doubt, would have been the most famous Paralympic athlete.
Like, you can say Oscar Pistorius to any country in the world, and there will at least be half the population that will know who that is, and if not more. Like,
and for different reasons. Even if you had no interest in sport, you knew about Oscar because of Reva, which is. And that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, we've got to remember, this guy ran the semi-finals at the Olympic Games, changed the way people considered people with a disability, did all that, yet his legacy will be the fact that he shot and killed his girlfriend. Yeah. And it's like, fuck.
Ridiculous.
You know, unbelievable. And maybe rightly so that should be the legacy, because there's nothing bigger than murder, than death. But, you know, I just think what an incredible, unfortunate situation to have been able to not manipulate, but to influence society's thinking in a positive way about people with disabilities. Yet your legacy's gone now. That's your legacy.
The one thing.
Yeah. Good message for young players out there.
Absolutely.
Don't fuck up.
Don't do something that'll get you in trouble. Gee, that was hard hitting, that sort of stuff. So we'll go off it now because it's a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. What else you got?
So, after your competitions and everything, you've retired for the second time after the Commonwealth Games.
For the final time.
For the second and final, unless there's another...
No, that's it, but I'm cooked.
So, you obviously decided to become like a motivational speaker and speaking to businesses and schools like my school and talking to myself on a podcast and everything like that. What made you sort of want to transition into that sort of part of your life and away from...
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first... I've sort of always been doing it along the way. It's just that other things were sort of more prominent. So as an athlete, when you've got you might be involved in a podcast or as a speaker, it's not really that big a deal. What's the big deal is the fact that you're an athlete. But when you're retired and the spotlight comes down on the fact that you're now doing this stuff and there is a media presence about it, whether it's social media or whatever. I think what you find is that all I'm really doing is pursuing a passion. Like I love the thought of being able to help other people. I love the thought of being able to share stories and tell stories. It's a lot of fun to reminisce and to go back and know that you've got a swag of things that's built you to the point of being here today and being able to understand life in a bigger picture and to be willing to explore it. Like I said before, if we don't call bullshit, if we don't ever challenge the status quo, then we just accept it and we don't evolve from that. Like I evolved. I had a fair bit to say around when the black rights and the naming of Chicos was changed and Redskins and all that sort of and I was quite vocal about that, and people come back at me and people close to me and sat with me and gave me another perspective, and I love that because that's how I grow. So I figure my role in being able to share and being comfortable about disability and life is really about helping other people grow. What they do with it. So I don't think for a second that I'm all righteous and going to tell people how to live like that. I'm living, I'm loving it, and I enjoy sharing it. So, do I have a pedestal? There's only 2 things I won't budge on in my entire life, and that is abuse to women and children. Apart from that, everything else, in my opinion, is negotiable. Like, you could tell me, mate, that the sun actually doesn't rise in the east, and I was like, fuck, you had me fooled. But I'd look into it because, we once upon a time thought the world was flat. So, are we really sure that that's east? So I'm happy to question everything. As I said, the only thing I wouldn't question is abuse to women and children, because there's no space for that in my life.
Of course. And so you've kind of gone from, like, your passion is from Don Elgin, the Paralympian, to Don Elgin, the motivational speaker. And like, that's sort of like, you've become so well known for this new part of your life now that it's kind of like going hand in hand. Like, you're not benefiting off your motivational speaking because you were the Paralympian. It's kind of like you've got your own skill sets in both things, and it's become this big...
Yeah, well, I must admit, I love it, and I think that's the message. If you pursue what you love, you'll get good at it. I mean, it doesn't mean the world needs to love it as well, but you'll get good at it. If you headbutt a wall every day, you get good at headbutting a wall, mate. So my advice is, Spotty, pick the thing that you know how you know when you're pursuing a passion is because when you think about it, you actually find yourself smiling, your heart beats a little bit quicker, and you'll be able to do it longer than everybody else who's just turning up to do it. And so for me, that's the answer. If you're in a space there should be some nerves. So I still get a bit of like fucking, here we go. Before when people are doing intros to me before I do a gig, it's like, shut the fuck up. Because the longer they're talking about me, like, I want to be out there doing it. I don't want to be like, someone build this thing up. It's like, oh shit, now where do I go? Like, it's like, just let me at it. And it's, but it really is. It's just pursuing passion. And I couldn't be more clear when I advise people that when I'm speaking, I'm not telling people how to live. I'm literally sharing how I live.
Yeah,
and a lot of people go, shit, I don't know if you should be living like that. It's like, well, I am, and it's fun. And I'm the happiest bloke I know. So I figure there's got to be something in it. It's not like I'm selling doom and gloom. I just remind people they're going to die at some point. So you should bloody live while you can.
Absolutely. So other than you've got just everything going on. Other than a motivational speaker, you're also an award-winning author. Award-winning. Let's just
thank you. I like how you've done that, mate. That's good.
We've got the two books.
I think I might have a new manager after this podcast.
So you got 1 foot on the podium and 1 foot beyond the podium. So 1 foot on the podium is about more your athletics life and your competitions, and then beyond the podium is more your after competitions. Right?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say it's more my afterlife. I thought
your
I haven't got to that yet.
Gonna write a book on that too.
Yeah, geez, are we doing well? Yeah, I'll do that. So this one foot on the podium, realistically encompasses a great deal of my parents' way of life, and their way of life was, mate, this is it. Let's just go. They were bush battlers. They were married young, kids young. And got stuck into life. So there was a fair bit of their story and their approach to life when I was born, and then right up from my birth, or prior to my birth, right up to the Sydney Paralympic Games. And as the sort of title alludes, 1 foot on the podium, what it was like to stand on the podium in my home country. 1 foot beyond the podium really picks up from Sydney, which is the year 2000, and then it was launched in 2016. So there's that 16-year, gap. What happened, post Sydney, and of course it finishes at me. The photo on the cover of that book is me standing under the arch of the Kokoda track, having just finished that, and the telling that story and that amazing appreciation that I have for people that were willing to give their life for me to be able to have the life I do. Like, that is an incredible, selfless thing to do. So I wanted to be able to honour that and pay homage to those people. So doing Kokoda and then having that as my last chapter in that book was really how I thought would be the most appropriate way to finish it off.
I don't want to spoil the book, but about Kokoda, just one word. How hard was it?
Fuck, I haven't got one word that's descriptive enough.
Well, not
okay. Without doubt, the hardest thing I've ever done.
Right.
Yeah. So just that tough.
That's how tough it was. Jesus.
Mentally and physically. Mentally, you're looking at a mountain and you go, I don't know that I can do that. And then what you achieve by doing it, and even the strategy, the understanding that all you have to do is not look at the mountain, but just look at the next step.
Yep.
One step. Do that. Then do one more step. And that's how you climb a mountain, one step at a time. And the mental part was when you're standing on somewhere like Brigade Hill And you hear the stories about how the diggers ripped off their dog tags, handed it to the boys behind them and said, I'm not coming back. They're going, like, that shit is... It's incredible. Yeah. It's incredible to think that somebody would, you know... Kingsley gets his VC because he grabs a machine gun and just fucking stands there and shoots so that we could hold the line. You know, that sort of stuff, when you're there and you get a living history lesson from somebody who's passionate, Wayne Weatherall was an awesome human, and somebody who led our trek both times, yep. To be able to tell you what happened because he'd spoke to the guys that fought on Kokoda. And to be able to just be there and be so humbled for the fact that you've got the opportunity. I mean, you're there in fancy climbing shoes and you've got, you know, the poles and you've got all you need. You've got food. Mate, they cut the arse out of their pants so they could shit while they kept walking because they had, you know, chronic illness. You know, like that's it. It's just bloody beyond words. Like, I don't have the words to be able to, you know, do justice for what they did for us, and I'm so grateful. So, yeah, incredible story.
So, when did you first start writing this One Foot on the Podium?
I first started writing One Foot on the Podium in the year 2000.
Yep.
I finished it in the year 2014.
Yep.
So, like, it took me 14 years to write that book, and the reason it took so long is because I'd started and it was a priority, and then it wasn't the priority.
You had stuff to do.
Yeah. Hey, Don, we're pregnant. Oh, fuck. Okay. I got to write a book. Or, Don, we've got another, you know, you've got a job or whatever. So, you know, you're trying to make a games or whatever. So, it was an on and off sort of thing. And then there was a time in my life I just said, I've got to pull the trigger. I've got to get this done. And so that was it. We just said, let's do it. So I put all my energy. I met up with Kevin and Anne, who's my editor, helped me with it. So I don't know if you've ever watched travel guides. No. Okay, you probably haven't missed much. I don't watch it either. But just so that anyone listening to this, if you do watch travel guides, I think it's Channel 9, the guy who's up himself, like seriously up himself, and his wife, they play up themselves. They're not nearly that up themselves. That's Kevin. So he's my ghostwriter. He worked with me on my book. When he was doing the travel guides, I'm looking at him going, you fucking flop. That's not how you really are. But obviously the show needs a toff, and he plays a role really well. So, absolutely. Yeah.
Look at that. Award-winning author now, after all that.
There you go, mate. They're your books.
Award-winning author. Really?
Excellent. They're for you.
Oh, I very much appreciate that. That'll be on the table every single podcast.
So there you go. That's the baseline. If you haven't got a book to give you, at least one or two, then stuff them. Get them off the podcast.
I've got the ones down here as well. If I get Lenny Hayes on, I've got a Lenny Hayes book. If he comes on, he doesn't need to bring a book. I've already got it. But like that's probably my.
If
I get Lenny Hayes,
pinnacle.
That is probably. I'm done. Like, I don't need to do anything for the rest of my life. But
you'll be getting Lenny Hayes, mate. You put it out there in the universe. Righto, Lenny, if you're listening, and I know you will be, mate. Lenny, I need you to get on this podcast with Jarryd, all right? He's got big plans, and you are the grand poobah. So get around him.
I appreciate that. So these books, $19.95 from your website. I'm about to plug them. So both books, $19.95 from your website for the hard copy, and $11.95 for the ebooks.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
I haven't checked for a while. I had to do a reprint that other day. I had a big book sale. Like a principal bought a shitload for all of his stuff. I love him to pieces, mate. Yeah. That's the sort of behaviour we want to see. Big book orders. But it meant that I had to go and do a reprint. So they're fresh. They're new.
Absolutely. Yeah. So and then a hard copy bundle for both of them, $34.95.
Is that it?
Yes.
Oh, what a bargain.
DonElgin.com.
I'll sign them.
I'll put the link in the bio.
They're probably worth more if I don't sign them.
No, that would be amazing. But anyway, so other than reading, other than being an author as well, you're also doing podcasts and you're also doing other work. So Wallara Online, what's that? So what do you do with Wallara Online?
Bloody good question. I'm supposed to be there now. I've got to go. Mate, I've got... I'm very fortunate. I head up a team of coaches that provide online classes for adults with a disability. So we've got a lot of guys that would go to, say, special schools, and then at the end of their schooling, they typically wouldn't just pick, like you and I, a uni or a TAFE and head off and do another course or go and get a job. These people have usually got a disability that affects them in a larger way that slows them down from being able to function in society as easily as you and I. But they've still got things they want to do. So we've got programs online. So the way we design the actual content is we went out and asked the client, said, what do you actually want to do? And one of them said, I want to learn how to put my makeup on. So we've got a makeup artist who actually...
That's awesome.
It's bloody fantastic. Like, they're real things for real people. So, and we've got classes, so people want to learn to write, or someone who wants to publish a book. We've got an Authors Club program. Like, it is seriously... And for me, I love it because I get to see that the team of people that we've got care about other people first and foremost, and also too we're making a meaningful difference to somebody else's life, which is what I'm all about. So Wallara has been fantastic for me, and to be able to have the privilege of being able to head up Wallara online is something that just in Newcastle yesterday at a networking event, sharing with people that when they learn and see the programs we offer. We've got programs, Life on the Farm, Life at Sages, and people can be in the middle of bloody Cooey Rup and sign into their class online and be able to be zoomed into the farm and see what's happening at Sages. It's a pretty cool thing.
That's
so
awesome.
Technology's been great, and we're leading the way with having more options accessible to people with disabilities. So Wallara Online is a great space. So all adults with a disability, and those disabilities vary from intellectual disabilities to CP, spinal bifida, all sorts. So and you can do these courses in the comfort of your own home, mate.
Absolutely.
So
that's awesome.
Get around them.
Absolutely. Other than that as well, you also have, like I said, the podcasts that you do. So you've got Giddy Up with JT.
I do. JT, mate, he's a loose unit, fair income.
And you've got Invisibility.
Invisibility, that's the other podcast. So, geez, now with yours and me being a co-host here, no, I'm not a co-host, mate. You're on your Pat Malone, you've got this. The Giddy Up podcast was just a couple of blokes that just wanted to share more positivity and have a laugh and just find weird random shit to talk about and let people, I suppose, engage in our life, but disengage from theirs. Be able to have a break from the concerns and stress and listen to a couple of blokes, not take themselves too serious, but also be willing to put our money where our mouth is, to actually have an opinion on shit, not sit on the fence. So we definitely do that. Sometimes we push the boundaries a bit more than people are comfortable with, but that's okay. We'll wake up tomorrow, the sun will come up. I don't know where from now, because we've bloody questioned where that's been rising from. And then, of course, Invisibility. That's the podcast that's the most serious for me. I do that with the CEO from Wallara, Phil Hayes-Brown, and we want to know why that in the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the biggest cohort in there are people with an intellectual disability, yet they're the most invisible in our society. We hear about people like me and Dylan Alcott and Kurt Fernley, people in wheelchairs and amputees, and we tell those stories, but we're not telling the stories of people with an intellectual disability. And we said, well, bloody, let's do it. Why not? So that's what that podcast is about, and it's been fantastic. We had Jeff Kennett help us launch that on December 3, International Day for People with Disabilities.
Awesome.
And it was fantastic. So we had Stacey, who has Down syndrome, intellectual disability, and she just spoke about how tough life was for her and her intellectual disability, and the fact that she got depression and was able to be an advocate, get through that, and now is an advocate for other people. It's bloody fantastic. So yeah, mate, I continue to. What I don't do is I don't say no to many things. So it's not going to kill me, not going to hurt, mate. I'll have a crack. So that's how I find myself here locked in your dungeon today.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what happened with this podcast. You just kind of couldn't say no, you're the yes man.
No, that's exactly it.
So what's next for you, basically? What's sort of your plans from now on till...
Mate, I want to soldier on. I want to keep doing this. I don't like to put a limit on what's possible. I don't want to preempt too much. COVID was an awesome thing for the world. Like, as much as in Victoria, like we lost a lot of lives, and it was a bastard, and it challenged people mentally and physically. But it also woke people up to say, well, what's important in life. You know, all this shit that we buy materialistic happiness, and it's like, you know what? COVID made us realise that we need to look in different spaces for different things. And one thing I loved watching Jimmy Barnes. Jimmy Barnes on Twitter and Facebook every day he'd do a song with his wife, and he just so fucking deliberately just putting joy out there for people, and I love that. And people that use their platform for the betterment of other people. So for me, in a nutshell, mate, I'd love to think that I can keep living, keep being as passionate about life as I am. I mean, it's I get challenged like everybody else. I've got an auntie who, you know, is in palliative care. We've got cancer. My mum and dad buried their best mate, you know, last week. And so, you know, there's things that remind us constantly. We have those reminders that we only live this once, and so we should choose how we want it to be. And my choice is a shitload of fun. So what's next for me is to keep doing that. I have a goal in life above all other goals, and that is to raise decent human beings. So my 4 kids are a testament to the fact that you know, that's the quest I have for myself and my wife is, if people meet our kids and go, she's got good kids, it's not an accident. And I know your mum really well, and she's done exactly the same thing. I think, you know, that's the credit, because we go through life doing things, but you know, raising good kids is not easy. It takes hard work, and it's bloody great when I see that. So, mate, I just want to continue living life and loving it and being open to what comes my way.
Fair enough. Do you reckon you'll have any more like collaboration with the Paralympics and like the team management side of things, or just sort of if you need to help them, or?
Yeah, well, I still manage a couple of athletes. One, Kelly Cartwright, we'll see her most likely compete in Tokyo. If Tokyo's on, she's likely to be there. Kel's got a cracking story. 15 years of age, lost her leg to cancer. Had cancer in her right knee. They said best chance of survival is for us to amputate leg. They amputated her leg. She went on, you know, I was there to help her raise her money for her first leg, become a manager, and great friends over a long time. I've actually been managing her. So Cal went to World Champs in 2011, come back with a couple of gold medals and a world record, and is, you know, won a gold medal and a silver at the London Games. And so, yeah, she's doing some wonderful things. So, you know, no matter what happens, you know, I'm not too far, you know, from Paralympics. I've known Hannah McDougall, who's a cyclist, who's Dr. Hannah McDougall now. I met her when she was 9 years of age. Wow, her mum rang me up and said, Don, could you come and watch my daughter? She's doing hurdles at Duncan McKinnon. I said, yeah, I'd love to. She knocked down 9 out of the 10 hurdles, finished the race, and I said to her mum, I said, she'll go okay. And that fighting spirit to just keep going. And what I love about it is Hannah and I were both representing Australia at the 2004 Athens Paralympic Games. Right. Hannah in swimming, me in athletics. Awesome. And so, you know, when you see that sort of stuff, you just go, shit, this is why I love, you know, that engagement, that space. So, yeah, mate, I'll never be too far away from it. And the fact that being an amputee, it's a small world of amputees. You tend to, you know a lot of people. So I'm also involved in a thing called the Mobility Clinic. We take a group of amputees, come there to the clinic wherever it is around the country. Yep. And it's a couple of days, and we teach people how to use their legs better, how to be able to run, walk, do more with what they got. So, and I'm fortunate to be sponsored by Oscar, who make our legs, make the blades that we wear, to be able to do that. So I get along to that every year and get involved. So yeah, mate, I'm actively involved and not going anywhere anytime soon.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on as well. First ever guest, unbelievable.
Well, mate, I can only say it's a huge privilege to be here. If I grovel enough, you might undo the chains you've got around my wrists and let me get out of here. But no, seriously, I just want to wish you well. Congratulations for having the courage to have a crack, because it is a big thing. And I have absolutely no doubt, mate, if you continue to do what you're doing, Lenny Hayes will be knocking on your door asking to be involved. So good luck, mate, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers.